I went to LA County and was sober and grateful to be there. I went to federal prison. I knew it was just part of my journey and I was going to make the best of it and there was going to be a silver lining and nothing mattered because I was sober for sure.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
you carried on going to meetings?
I did. There weren't a lot of meetings when I was in prison. And then I got out and I went to meetings. I started a personal training business and was very successful with that. But I did have a relapse in my story. So that was after my son was born. So I had 13 years and I went to meetings, but I wasn't doing the service work and I wasn't helping others. I was a mentor to a lot of young girls when I started personal training. So I think that was a big part of my service work, but I was not fully integrated into the program how I should be. I think the service work and working with a sponsor and connecting with your higher power, I know today I have to do it all.
Did you relapse into drugs or
No,
alcohol or?
just alcohol, right? And that's like my mission now is like that mommy wine culture. It's just so
Yeah.
accepted. I believe that my addiction started to flourish again when I was going through fertility treatment. And then obsessive compulsive thinking started to manifest itself inside me. And I would go down these really toxic rabbit holes. And my mindset was just going down a very toxic, negative place. And my marriage became very challenging going through that. I probably knew better not to have a kid, but I'm very stubborn and hard headed. And I was on a mission. My husband at the time had 23 years sober, and he had started using as I was trying to get pregnant. Second my kid was born, it was like postpartum. I wasn't working. I thrive off work. I felt like the carpet was like ripped out from under me. My marriage was really struggling. I was really struggling with the breastfeeding, and that was really important to me. I remember I was in a breastfeeding class, and one of the moms said, "Just drink a glass of wine." And that's all I needed to hear. And I tested the waters with my parents. I called them and I said, "Someone said I should just drink a glass of wine." And they're like, "Then do it." It'd been 13 years. We all got over my crazy prison thing as much as we could. And that was game on.
And how long
So
did you drink for?
it went for a while until my marriage completely fell apart. And I ended up saying, we either get a divorce or we're sober. And he chose the other path. And so it was pretty much done after that. And I quit drinking until midway through COVID. I really got in a like pretty low place. Like it was hard. I wasn't around people. I didn't have meetings where I could be with people. I really struggled with the sponsor I was working with for various reasons. And my kid was very challenging. Not that any of these are excuses. I just wasn't doing what I needed to do. And I ended up relapsing. And it was completely to numb the pain that I was dealing with between things with my kid and my ex. And I didn't wanna feel a thing. I didn't wanna feel a thing. I couldn't manage feeling any emotion. I had no help. I didn't know how to ask for the right help because I've been in a lot of therapy throughout my life, and so I need someone who's going to push me a little bit further than probably most and really dig into me, and let's get into the type childhood trauma. Let's get into all the things. I couldn't find that. All the therapists were very surface level for me. And I would tell them that I need from the very beginning, I tell them exactly what I need. And don't sugarcoat things, like, get in there with me. I yeah, I was in a dark place emotionally. So it got pretty bad. It got to a bottle of gin every day. I'd make it till about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and it would be noon time. So it's a lot. I weigh 110 pounds, 150 pounds. And it could be a sip or it could be halfway through a bottle. I didn't know when I was gonna black out. I blacked out every time. I didn't leave my house, stayed in my house. It was bad. I
Did the exercise not help? You're very fit, you're a
I
personal
did it all
trainer.
still. I did it all. I got up every day. I trained my clients at 5 AM. I got up, I worked out. I did everything. I was like the healthiest alcoholic ever. It was like, this was so easy the first time. Like, why is this so hard? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I just got sober. Like I went to rehab. It was nothing. The journey getting there was rough, but once I made my decision, I was just done. I was like, okay, we're going through this again. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm going to have something really bad happen again. I don't want to go back to prison and I don't want to lose my kid. I just prayed on that eventually. And I was chairing a meeting. I'd get some time and then relapse, but I was chairing meetings, going to 2 meetings a day. I had a sponsor. I was talking to people. I was praying. I don't know what I wasn't doing except my ego and my lack of humility. It was so hard. I could not stop. I lost people, and I'd never lost a human being due to my addiction. I think that was my wake up call, and I'm lucky for that. And I don't even think about drinking. Yeah, it's a little over a year now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Stay
yeah,
strong. You're amazing. You've got such a
yeah.
constitution.
Well,
If you think what you can manage on a bottle of gin, what are you going to manage without alcohol when you're super
oh yeah,
healthy?
my life is unbelievable, and I know I may have the 13 years, but that means nothing because I totally took it for granted. So grateful every single day, and do a lot of service work. I just had to find what worked for me.
Let's talk about the work that you're doing at the moment, helping women about their health and thriving in sobriety, because that must help you as well.
Oh, yeah. So,
So,
I mean,
talk to me
essentially
about that. How did it start and what do you do?
okay, so how did that start? I struggled with my health through my entire life, chronic fatigue, chronic stomach problems, bloating, inability to lose weight. I was a hardcore athlete. I grew up in a pretty healthy family. But as I became a professional trainer, I realized that I was eating perfect and working out a ton, and I was getting sicker. Not like I had the flu, but I was just unwell, like chronic diarrhea, bloating. I was having my period every other week, and I knew that there was something else. I just knew in my gut, like something's not right. Like I need to figure this out. And someone asked me to run a food sensitivity test one day, and I did that, and that opened doors for me into the functional medicine world. So I started navigating down that path of looking into adrenals and hormones and gut health. And once I started to work on that, all the pieces in my life as far as my health started to come together. I think I probably used because it was the only time I felt good. Meth was my drug of choice. I struggle with ADHD and my brain is all over the place and it just leveled me out. And my stomach didn't hurt. So now I work with women who are just struggling to get answers to their health. They're going to the doctor, they're being told that their labs are completely normal, but they know something's not right. And a lot of them eat right when their eating is pretty clean, they're working out. They do have a lot of stress. Most women who work or have kids do, but it's just a very dark, devastating, depressing place to be when you can't figure out what's wrong with you
Yeah.
and your mindset becomes extremely toxic. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people drink, especially women my age, they just give up, and it's a way to escape the fact that they just can't feel good in their own body. And
And it does make us feel good for a short time.
short term, yeah, 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 it
Yeah.
does. And even when I was drinking, I remember I had a lot of flare ups with my hormones due to the drinking, but I remember it just numbed it. And I remember there were days where I'm like, man, had I had a drink like way back when I was really struggling with my health post prison, it would have probably been game on. I help them heal from the inside out. So we look at the gut, we look for underlying gut infections, we look at hormone imbalances, alcohol use wreaks havoc on your cortisol and your
Yeah.
hormones. I see a lot of estrogen dominance. There's a lot of women with undiagnosed COS where alcohol it totally has an impact on your blood sugar regulation. So that alone,
And of
and
course, breast cancer with the estrogen dominance.
oh
I've had
yeah,
estrogen based breast cancer, and so have
oh
many
yeah,
women
yeah,
in our community. Yeah.
yeah,
So, what
yeah.
would you say to a woman that has got sober? She's maybe in her first year of sobriety, but still not really feeling great, and she's pretty sure there's something else going on. What would you advise her? What can she do?
I do a discovery call with people, so that is one thing I would recommend. It's a free one-on-one. We do a health clarity call, and we just talk about their health journey. I think that it starts the day you're born. If you were a C-section baby, it's not gonna be as healthy as someone who goes through the woman's vagina and you get that mucus that populates your gut microbiome. We do a full health history and we talk about all that, and then we discuss what labs would be the best thing to do. I would say, obviously, eat good, clean, whole foods is really important, and finding ways to get your drainage pathways back in check, looking at your liver, your kidneys, your gallbladder, and a lot of gut healing work. Most of the time, 99.9% of the people I work with have an underlying gut infection. Once you are able to remove those underlying infections and heal the gut, you're pretty healthy, you know?
Yeah, that there are some pretty good tests these days for our microbiome, aren't they?
Oh,
You
yeah.
send a sample away and then you get a log report back. Yeah, I did
Oh,
that a
yeah.
while ago.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I just got some pictures this morning of someone, and she sent pictures of her worms. Um,
Oh,
I love that.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I found it quite interesting because they send back a list of recommended foods. So there were foods that apparently are quite good for me, but they're not healthy foods that you suddenly think of. Then it told me that I shouldn't be eating broccoli and things like that. And yeah, you think, but I'm always eating broccoli to be healthy. So it's
yeah.
not as obvious as it seems, is it? And
No.
I'm sure we're working towards really personalized medicine,
Yeah.
aren't we?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you,
So
yeah,
totally. The food intolerance test, definitely. I run that because the elimination diet is really challenging. I can't even do it, and I'm pretty in tune. I do that food sensitivity test, and a lot of people realize that the foods that they're eating the most of and the healthiest ones are the ones that they're most reactive to.
yeah, yeah,
And I think for people in recovery, it's important to know that, like, when you eat those foods, you're also those inflammatory foods, if they're healthy, you're gonna get that same response that you get if you drink alcohol or use drugs. It's that dopamine, that serotonin
yeah.
surge that you get in your body. And so it feels good to eat the inflammatory foods. And then you get into the overeating, the binge eating, because it sets off that whole cycle. So that's why you see a lot of people in recovery that are struggling with overeater or sugar addiction or,
Yeah, let's
binge
talk about
eating.
the sugar because I think I saw you do a program about that because we have so many ladies that give up the drinking and then they find themselves eating piles of sweets and chocolate. And we do suggest that they go for fresh fruit rather than chocolate and sweets. But what would you say to people that are struggling with a sweet tooth after quitting the booze?
I think there's great alternatives. So always switch to honey, maple syrup, coconut sugar. Some of those are a healthier option. There's so many amazing sugar-free products. I would try to stay away from like the commercial ones, but at any of a natural food store, you'll find chocolate and all those things that are not full of the artificial sugars. But I think the biggest thing to focus on is making sure you're on a good supplement protocol that is replenishing your body with all the nutrients that have been depleted due to your drinking or drug use, because a lot of times we're really deficient in the B vitamins and your vitamin C, you need to load up on that for your adrenals. So there's a lot of good nutrients to start, and then to also work on your blood sugar. That is the biggest reason why we're gonna see sugar cravings. It's our blood sugar and our insulin are just crazy from all the drinking. Once we can get a handle on that, you'll start to see the sugar cravings dissipate. So eating really good high meals that have like protein and that's high in fat, good clean healthy fats, and not be afraid of that. Really good clean carbs. Avoid eating carbohydrates alone. That'll definitely cause a sugar craving. And to make sure you have the really well balanced meals. As long as you're going to the bathroom fairly regularly, I think eating every 3 to 4 hours in the beginning to work on the blood sugar is important.
Yeah, there's a lot of repair work to be done, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Especially those of us that drank for decades. There's a lot of work to be done.
yeah.
What about exercise, Sam? Imagine someone's given up drinking late in life and they haven't really exercised much. What would you suggest? Because I think that can be so helpful when we're in recovery, can't it?
Oh yeah. movement is super important. So what I would recommend is definitely start at a slower pace. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that movement is very important. You're going to have to find out what works for you, but weightlifting is definitely top priority. And then you can get into Pilates, yoga, some cardio is good, but
Yeah.
weightlifting is probably going to be the most beneficial thing for you. And there's various ways you can do it at any age safely if you're injured.
At 6 o'clock, instead of opening the wine, I just force myself to go out for a long walk. I still do that today, and I'm 9 years sober. And it's such a better way to start the evening than
Oh, yeah.
anesthetizing yourself with wine.
I think the biggest thing is for women, I think we start to do an excessive amount of cardio because we think we're going to burn more calories. It's all like about calorie counting because that's what we've been taught and ingrained for so many
Yeah.
years. And that's a stressor on the body. We run a lab and we'll be able to tell what kind of exercise is best for them when we look at their cortisol. But I really think interval training and not more than 20 minutes is all that you would need when it comes to
Yeah, yeah. We've got to focus on being strong and fit rather than starving ourselves, haven't we? I
yeah,
think that message is finally getting there.
yeah.
So, talk to us about the programs that you do run and how people can find you.
So I do the free health clarity call, and then from there we determine what labs and what kind of program would be the best fit for you. It's really so individualized, but most people tend to run a food sensitivity test, a GI panel, and a hormone adrenal panel with me. And there's various programs and levels they can do, but the best is to just do the free call if they're curious.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I'm all over Instagram and Facebook. It's CFit Living, it's SEFIT, and then Living.
Awesome. So, anything else you'd like to mention?
I think it's just important to really invest in your health. It's the only body you have. I think some people are like, oh my God, it's so much money to do this and that. But it's think of how much money you were spending on all the alcohol you were drinking and how much
Absolutely.
time you're wasting. And if you put forth the effort that you put into that career, you're going to feel pretty amazing and be proactive. You don't have to wait till you feel awful to do work on yourself. It's important for everyone. And
Yeah. When we quit drinking, we've got more time, more money, and motivation to do something, haven't we? So, I think working on our health is just about the best project that there is to start with. So, it has to be a amount of healing going on, doesn't there? So, last question. If someone's listening to this and is in trouble with drugs or alcohol, what would
oh
you
boy.
say to them? What's the first thing they can do to try and make a change? Because it just seems so overwhelming.
What I would say is tell someone. I think being vulnerable is the best thing you can do, admitting that you have a problem or at least starting that path. And there's no shame. I wear that label proud. I'm an
Me
addict,
too.
I'm an alcoholic. I know today that if I have anything in my body at this point, I probably will die. I've had so many chances, like my 9 lives are up, and you don't have to get there. And I think everybody's rock bottom is different. You could have all
Yeah.
the things in the world, you're at your bottom, and just tell someone.